Welcome to another episode of Have Game Will Travel. I'm your host, Bennett Newsome, also known as Damn It Bennett out in the gaming community, but as the Director of Esports Growth and Development here at Full Sail University, I'm super passionate about exploring the diverse world of esports and gaming beyond just skill level. So whether you're a first-time listener or a returning fan, we're thrilled to have you take this virtual journey with us through the experiences of industry professionals. So get ready to engage with our guests, learn from their perspectives, and remember to submit your questions in chat as we'll feature them and get you your desired answers. But sit back and enjoy the ride as we kick off another episode of Have Game Will Travel with my good buddy Mykiah. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
How has your day been going? I hope it's been going well.
It's been going well. Just the usual esports work. You know how it is.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, we have some storms going on here in Orlando, so we've already lost power once today. Hopefully, that won't happen tonight.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself to tell the people what you do, and then we'll get into it.
Well, alrighty. Well, first I apologize because I like looking. So, like, if you see me going here and then looking here, it's because I want to look at Bennett when he's talking, and I want to look at you guys. But hi, my name is Mykiah Bonhom. I am a former, I guess now recent graduate of Shenandoah University's esports program. That was back in May of 2023. I now work as the esports specialist at Spectrum Industries.
Awesome. Can you talk about just kind of your interest in esports and where that journey started and kind of what was the passion for that? Why esports? Why did you want to pursue that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for me, my journey in esports didn't really start until my senior year of high school. So, I was considering a bunch of different careers, the easy choice of deciding what you want to do for the rest of your life. At first, I was like, well, maybe I want to go and be a psychiatrist because I really like helping people. But then I
Yeah.
was like, I am not paying for med school. So
Yeah.
then I was like, maybe I want to go into like movie production or things like that. And then I realized that is a very cutthroat industry. So
Mhm.
maybe we could reconsider. And so I was looking and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go get a business degree and we'll see what happens. And I eventually stumbled upon Shenandoah, which I didn't even know that they were starting an esports program, but I saw that their new esports major was showing. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. Like my only knowledge of esports was like MLG phase
Right.
trick shot compilations and things like that. I didn't know that this was an industry. So I did a little research into it, and I'd actually went up and I had met Dr. Griziak, who is now at Syracuse University. But yeah, he pretty much I was sold on the program, and it also did help that I did get the presidential scholarship. That definitely helps a lot. But yeah, that was pretty much how my journey into esports started, and it was amazing. It was amazing, honestly. I have traveled all over the world. I've traveled to London and South Korea. I've traveled to Florida, California. I've traveled to so many different places doing esports events through various internships and experiential learning opportunities. And it was a great time. It was a great time. And it led me to have the experience to where I now work in a job where I am pretty much doing the same
Yeah.
thing, traveling all over the country to
Right.
talk about esports and promote it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about kind of getting your foot in the door after graduation. Like, what was that first kind of step into this industry for you, and what sort of challenges did you face?
Well, I think face the challenges that most people face. Esports, it's very hard. It's a growing industry, but it's also very small at the same time. So, I was taught from my freshman year that you got to network, you got to get your name out there, and you got to get people knowing what you're doing and how you're doing it. And so, throughout college, I was literally just I was it still amazes me to this day where I was a quiet kid. I never really could go up to people like doing something like this. Definitely not. I would have been like, no, I'm too nervous. But yeah, I would just go up to people, introduce myself, and let them know what I was doing, why I was passionate about esports, and why I wanted to work in the industry. And even with all of that effort, when I got out of college, I did end up landing my first job in esports. That was not with Spectrum, but unfortunately, I was a part of the esports winter
Yeah.
where I was laid off 3 months in, which was very shocking. It was very tragic. Luckily, I had a very nice landlord that let me get out of my lease, because I know some landlords would be very, very
Yeah.
adamant about getting their money. But yeah, I was just packed it up. And honestly, I didn't think that I was going to be in esports anymore. I didn't think that being in esports would be an opportunity for me. So I just packed and went home. And I always like to keep in connections with people, because I like to, not obviously, business matters, but I do like building those more
Yeah.
personal relationships. So I was just reaching out to people and being like, hey, I just got laid off. I don't know if I'm going to be in esports anymore,
Yeah.
but would love to stay in contact. And, if we see each other around, like, I still plan to be around in the esports industry, traveling to events and stuff. But, as far as working, didn't really see a future happening. But luckily, I guess it was the right place at the right time, because my now boss, Scott Dorn, he was like, hey, well, I know you just got laid off, but you actually fit exactly what we're looking
Yeah.
for in the position here at Spectrum. We're looking for someone who is young, has lived and breathed esports, specifically in education, and we're looking for someone who can help promote our efforts into trying to build our product into that space. So I was like, well, it's either this or probably go work some regular corpo jobs. So
Yeah.
I graciously took the offer. And honestly, it was one of the greatest decisions I've ever made, because I know there's not a lot of people in the world that wake up and say that they love what they do, but
Yeah.
I get to fortunately say that at 23 years old.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, we're all big fans of Scott Dorn. Who isn't at this point, right?
Yeah.
But that's a huge opportunity. The whole idea of like one door closing and another one open, for your instance here, like that just really made a lot of sense, right? Do you feel like your background in esports management from Shenandoah University really helped kind of seal that deal in your current career?
Absolutely. For me, it was the experiential learning opportunities, we called them, where, you know, even Joey will admit it to this day that he would always say, no one is going to ask you what your GPA is. No one's going to
Right.
ask you what your what your grades were in classes. They're going to
Right.
ask you about what experiences you have. And
Yeah.
still to this day, no one has asked me what my GPA was in college. So,
Mykiah, what was your
Shannon,
GPA in college? No, I'm just kidding.
I think I had what, like a 3.9,
There we go.
3.9, I think it was. So it was pretty good. It was pretty good. But yeah, it was those experiences that allowed me to have tangible experiences on my resume, to where I was going out and
Yeah.
talking to recruiters, I was able to say, hey, yes, I'm passionate about this industry, but I also have work. I have tangible evidence that I am willing to work in this industry. I'm willing to learn, but I also understand what I'm talking about. I
Yeah.
understand the industry. I understand what is going on, and I want to help be part of the solutions and help take the industry to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna pick our first question from chat here. It says, "What was your biggest struggle in making the jump from the student side to being a staff member in an esports space?" And that comes from Queen of NACL.
hmm So I would say the hardest thing about being a student to working was honestly just the freedom, I guess. When you're in college, like I always say that it's the easiest place to make mistakes. It's the easiest place to
Right.
try to figure out what you're doing, because you don't have things like bills and responsibilities.
Right.
You're just at college enjoying yourself. So it was really that leap from having a lot of free time and having, just even friends around me and stuff, to really just being out on my own. Like for my first job, I went and I moved up to the New Jersey area all by myself
Yeah.
for to go and do it. And it was scary. It was scary. I still am that introvert. That part of me will always be within me, that is scared to go out and talk to people. So,
Right.
going and moving out by yourself, I was 21 at the time.
Yeah.
Like that's scary. That's scary to go and do that. And it was definitely a very hard adjustment, but I knew that it was something that I was passionate about. So I was willing to go through those struggles to get to where I wanted to be.
Yeah, and taking and putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, obviously that's part of that growth in any industry, in any job that you take. You kind of have to put yourself out there for that, and obviously going to a completely new place all by yourself is tough, but you did it, and that's always part of that process for it. Do you think that that time spent there, even though it turned a different outcome than you expected, was something that continued to help reinforce the things that you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, that little experience that I had, it taught me that working in esports was something that I really wanted to do. I
Yeah.
think that, at least in my experience, for what I've seen, like a lot of people don't understand the difference between liking esports, liking watching esports, maybe even like playing esports
Right.
games. But working in esports is a whole different
Oh yeah.
animal, whether if you're on the professional side or if you're on the education side. It is a whole different animal. You have to deal with so many different problems. And,
Hmm.
I was working more on the professional side for that role. But I mean, it taught me that even though, it has its challenges, like this is something that I love doing. I love learning about the industry. I love learning about these problems. I love
Yeah.
meeting the people in the industry. So, I didn't know if my journey was going to continue at the time, but that job solidified that, my end goal was to be in esports in some way, shape, or
Yeah.
capacity.
Yeah, yeah. It's all about perspective too, I think, right? Like when you're on the outside and you're looking in, hey, this looks awesome, and then once you finally get there, maybe while you're on the outside, you're thinking, oh, if I was doing this, I would do it this way and that way and that way, and then you get on the inside, you start working these jobs, and you're like, oh, yeah, this is way more complicated than I thought
Yeah,
maybe it was gonna
absolutely.
be.
Absolutely.
So tell me about your current role as the product specialist at Spectrum Industries. What does that entail? Like what does your day to day look like?
Absolutely. So, how I always answer this question is it's pretty much in two parts. So, the main part of my job is I'm at home. I
Yeah,
work remotely, and I work specifically on our marketing efforts towards the esports space and education. I also work with our business development side as well. So, as far as the marketing space, I'm talking a lot with our marketing coordinators, talking about like how can we better market our product to the esports space, how can we better develop marketing campaigns to get our product more aware and get more people to know about what's going on in the esports space. And so that's one part, and then I also do a lot of business development, which I'm not going to lie, I'm a little biased. I like the business dev side more. But that side involves doing a lot of research of,
yeah,
what are the trends going on in the esports space. Specifically, right now, I'm looking at K through 12, looking at trends in esports to K 12. That can include collegiate as well,
yeah,
looking at trends of that, and then also thinking about what are areas that Spectrum could improve on as far as what products do we have in the space. Are there specific things that we are not? Are there specific needs for the educational side of esports that we could solve those problems? And there's a product that we're coming out very soon, which I'm not 100% sure I could talk about, so I'm not going to. But I'm very, very excited about it because it's
yes,
something that I've been talking about since literally day one. Like we need this ASAP.
yeah,
So it in details that as well. So that's my more remote side.
yeah,
Then we talk more about the side that I definitely love a lot more. Because as much as I love the research and everything, I am just sitting in a chair a lot.
right,
So there is also the side that deals with travel, where I'm going to different conventions, trade shows, or meetings to go meet with customers to talk about specifically, like, are they, if we're working with them and they bought some of our product, are there things that we can improve on? Are there
yeah,
things that we could do better as far as customer service? But it also deals with, the ultimate job to get those sales, going and
right,
talking to people about what is esports, why is esports important, and using my experience from living and breathing an esports program to tell people, hey, you know esports is important. My saying, that really isn't my saying, is I always tell people the kids are going to play video games anyway. Would you rather them play at home by themselves and not learn anything, or would you rather them have a mature adult around them to teach them skills that they can learn and can transfer into so many different aspects of
yeah,
life? And every time, without fear, they're like, well, when you put it like that, and I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's using that to convince people that esports is important and why they should invest in it, and obviously selling some of our furniture along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think that's a great way to look at it, and that's really helping shape the future of esports in general, at least from the K through 12 to potentially the collegiate side. Is that For the longest time, especially in the collegiate space, most of the players come in and they've never been coached before. They've never played, video games competitively, right? Like at that level, maybe. So this is a huge like new thing for them. But as time goes on and as foundations are built, like what you're talking about and the things that you are doing, it's only going to get better. And those players are only going to get better. They're going to be more coachable. They're going to have more opportunities. And then by the time that they get to the collegiate space, it's going to be a totally different world, which is really exciting. So I commend you for, helping build that foundation, because it's such an important piece of the puzzle, and I love the opportunities that you get to create with your partners, you and Spectrum, obviously, trying to advance esports and the different initiatives that you're building. So I know you can't talk about your secret new product, but we'll definitely be excited to see it. I'll keep our eyes out for that. Now I know you worked and you did some marketing efforts for Unicorn Esports. Can you talk to us a little bit about that in your past?
Yeah, I think so. So specifically with some of my marketing efforts at Unicorn, we were working a lot with influencers.
Hmm.
So we had our big area that we were excited about was Brazil, because I mean I didn't even know Brazil fans they are
Yeah.
very very passionate about
Yeah.
esports. Going over there, I think recently it might be longer than I think, but like the Rainbow Six major that they had over there had like record viewership in Brazil because they had it in Brazil. And I was just like, I mean, it just, coming full circle seeing that. But some of those marketing efforts included doing the same thing, like doing research of like what are different gambling trends that are happening in esports, what are different areas, even not just Brazil, outside, like what are
Right.
areas that could see growth. But specifically in Brazil, we worked a lot with influencers. I don't remember their names, so I wish I could, but I don't remember, and I might get in trouble for saying some of those names, so I won't. But we worked with them specifically to promote our product and promote specifically. I wish I remembered what exactly it was, because it's been a while. But we had a product specifically on the Unicorn website where it was something that I was really excited about, where you could actually bet on your own games. So, like for example, if you and I were to play a match in like Call of
Right.
Duty, now you would absolutely win. Like the odds would be in your favor. I'm not
Okay.
winning,
Okay.
but we had a product where if you could actually bet on your own matches and win money doing that. So I
Right.
forgot. I wish I remembered the name of it, but that was something that I thought was really cool, because it was more, bringing people already are doing this with like
Right.
fantasy, building their own fantasy football leagues or fantasy basketball leagues. They're already putting money into it. Why not bring that over to esports as well? Having people be able to bet on their own matches and things like that, because as much as people like betting on like if Team Liquid is going to win or whatever and stuff, it definitely makes it a lot more exciting where you can do it with your friends and things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I feel like the betting landscape is very interesting. We always have people that are like trying to talk to college students about that. I'm like, we're going to keep that over here, but it is a pretty unique, aspect of the industry. Obviously, like you said, fantasy football, all of the different things that you can do with that is really cool. So you also had some time at Esports Engine. You were a ticketing lead there. I remember the Halo Championship Series here in Orlando. You were working that event, as well as some other. I feel like I've seen you on the road a million times through our
Yeah.
journeys here. But talk to us a little bit about your time at Esports Engine.
Yeah, so I would definitely say a little bit biased, but of all the experiences I have had, I am most thankful for the experience I had at Esports Engine, because working there doing ticketing was the moment where I realized like I want to work in esports.
Yeah.
Like when I realized it in college, at least, like
Right.
because I had gone to South Korea by then, and I had like traveling and stuff, but I always tried to not humble myself. I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for, but remind myself that, don't get so excited about the glitz and glamour. Like,
Right.
understand that it's not always like that. But, I was really like, I was, I literally did whatever they asked of me. Like, my
Hmm.
role was ticketing manager, but I remember there was a part where they had me put up a bunch of signage. I was in the back, like helping the guys like move some of the crates and things like that. Like, I was literally doing whatever I wanted because
Yeah.
I was grind. I wanted to get in. I wanted to get in the industry and I wanted to make a name for myself. So it was a lot of fun though. I actually met. Um, I think he's at the. I mean, kind of controversial, but I think I met. Scump, I think his name is,
Yeah.
who's
Hmm.
hosting the esports awards right now. So that was like really cool to meet him. I've met a bunch of other different personalities, but he was probably like the biggest one that
Yeah.
I had met, and I didn't even realize who he was till I like looked at the name, and they're like, "Hey, we have special passes for us." And, I'm always like, "Special passes, okay." And then I looked and I see Scump. I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yes,
So
makes sense.
but that was really cool. But yeah, it really taught me also that like I had something to bring, because something weird that I didn't ever think about was, when you know nothing about what you're going into, like it can be scary sometimes because you're
Yeah.
like, well, can I handle it? Will I be able to manage things? Like, will I be able to impress anybody? Will I will my position even matter at all?
Yeah.
And through two events, I was already the ticketing lead, I guess.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it was I didn't get a pay raise, unfortunately, but I pretty much made it to where like I was running the ticketing booth with all of our Shenandoah people and even some people from different schools. Like, I didn't mean to. I'm definitely not the person that's like trying to tell people what to do or anything like that.
Right.
But I more or less found myself in a position of organizing people, making sure that customers were, being dealt with properly and everything. And, my boss, who she doesn't work in esports anymore, but Ashley Sweet, she was like, Mykiah, I thank you so much for being able to manage this up here, because I've had tons of different people go out there and work this while I'm working, but every time I always have to come back here and I always have to
Right.
do it, because she was doing too many things, because she was in hospitality, so she was doing so many different things.
Yeah.
And she was like, it's nice to not have to be able to worry about the ticketing booth for once in my life. And it felt good. It felt good to that someone who, she didn't have to say that or anything. She didn't have to say it to me, but the fact that she did that, and the fact that she relied on me to bring me out to, I think it was like 4 or 5 Halo majors, which it was awesome. It made me feel good about what I could bring.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think, that was a great opportunity for you because you were still a student during this time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was trust me, I did not think I was leading people at 19, 20 years old. That is definitely not that was not in freshman Makai's mind.
Yeah, but that's great though because I think that's such a like the raw experience of that is so powerful that you had the opportunity and then you continued to perform at a level that elevated that. So you took on more responsibilities, which obviously gives you more opportunity to take that further down the road. But that really is a really cool experience to put on your resume. Especially as you're going to school for esports. You now have this one of the biggest, esports tournaments that goes around the country. You're working for. I mean, that's such a huge win across the board. We've got another question from chat. It says from Jacobs' Nachos. What are some of the biggest challenges of setting up and being involved in like large conferences like FETC?
Um Getting the crate on time.
Yeah, shipping
Um
logistics. Yes,
yes,
we know
yes,
it.
yes. I mean, that's a joke, but luckily I don't have to do that, because that is the biggest thing that I see that is a nightmare. But I would say, as far as the setup and things like that, honestly, like that to me is really the smoothest part of the process. I'm working with guys who they've done this probably thousands of times before, and they know what they're doing, and I feel comfortable with, I just do right now. I understand that I am not being asked to like do everything. They're there to help me, and they're there to,
Yeah.
be there to support me through the process. So as far as like what is the process of like setting up and things like that, I feel like I've gotten more acclimated. But when I first started doing it, I mean, one, it was really trying to find where I could help, because I'm just a helper. And there were certain times where, not because I wasn't capable, but because of either time reasons or the fact that I was just new. Like there was
Yeah.
just sometimes where I just, it was better for Scott or Drew or one of our other territory managers to be doing this part of the process that I wish I could be involved with. But, it was actually better for me to take a step back and be like, you know what, even though I want to help, like it would actually help more in the future if I sit and I listen to the conversations that
Right.
are happening. That was a big part for me. I would go up to people, and it would be kind of awkward. Sometimes I definitely would see people being like, does he want to talk or anything like that? And I just would kind of ignore it, because I'd be like, I'm just going to ignore the awkwardness now. But I would literally just sit and listen and just hear what people have to say, and hear them talk about, like, how are they promoting our product? How are they talking about our product? How are they
Right.
getting that final hurdle over the sale? And that part was really beneficial for me, because now I pretty much have stolen what they would do and made it my own.
Yeah.
I pretty much just, taking the different avenues and things that I've learned and making it into my own, into something that can ultimately help me in what I got to do in my role.
Absolutely. Yeah, you want to be a sponge in those situations, especially in a
Yeah.
new, area that you're in, right? Like you want to absorb as much information as you can, and then figure out how that works with your personality, and how you can, talk about those same things and do it with a level of passion and integrity and all of those types of things, which I think you do a great job of. So, you obviously got to see you in action
Mhm.
at FETC. I think that was the first time that we crossed paths when you were working with Spectrum Industries.
Yeah.
Was at that convention, so that was really cool to see you there. And obviously, we've had a long history. We're big fans of Shenandoah, and obviously have had many conversations with you over the years that you were a student, and then going through obviously to today, where you're now working for Spectrum Industries. But you recently gave your very first keynote speech.
Oh,
I would
jeez.
love to know what were the topics that you covered. That's a pretty cool honor to have, to give a keynote speech somewhere.
Yeah, so that was definitely something I was not expecting to do. My life is very, very crazy. It throws me a lot of curveballs. But yeah, I had the opportunity to keynote speak at the DeKalb County Technology Symposium in July on my birthday.
Yep.
So that was a very unique opportunity. But it was scary. It was scary. It was my first time keynote speaking ever. Like I had always been on panels and things like
Right.
that, but I had never keynote spoke before, and I had a little over 300 people listening to what I had to say. That's just crazy to think about. But to answer your question, I when they came to me and they asked me to do it, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea. They were like, "We would love for you to be the keynote speaker," and I was like, "Well, like, do I talk about esports? Do I talk about esports in education? Do I not even talk about esports at all? Like,
Yeah.
what do I want to do here?" And I pretty much just bulked it to, you know what? I'm just gonna treat this like any other conversation that I have. I'm just going to talk to them, but put it in presentation format of what was my journey going into esports and why it's important and why it can help other students. So my presentation was pretty much just that. I
Yeah.
talked about how, I unfortunately was bullied, and I went through a very, very harsh time in high school, and I never really felt like I had a home. But it wasn't until I got to Shenandoah and I was in esports to where I actually found a place where I felt like I had a second home. I was very easily able to make friends, and I found an industry that I'm passionate about. I was just conveying that message to the people, and I got a standing ovation, which, I mean, I guess for my first time getting a standing ovation is pretty
Pretty
good.
good. Yeah. I'd say
Um
so.
yeah, but yeah, it was just awesome. And talking with people after, I had to put a couple of people come up to me, and they're like, "Hey, like I've been thinking about starting an esports program, and
Yeah.
your speech really motivated me to want to start one." Or some people are like, "I didn't even know this was a thing, but or even people just being like, like my son or my daughter, like they're really into gaming, and
Yeah.
hearing your story really gave me comfort that they're not wasting their time and stuff." And just hearing that really feels good, because that's my ultimate goal. Like, yes, I want to sell tables and chairs and things like that, but ultimately, what I want to do is I want to help people understand that esports not only is the future, but it's a future that can really help benefit people like me, who are gamers or in the nerd adjacent categories, that have never really had somewhere where they can feel like they have a home and can easily make friends, and bringing that into a place where they can, like education.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you feel like that? Because I know that you also kind of like penned a blog post about your journey and how esports really provided for you, and created this whole world that you didn't know about. Would you say that that keynote speech and that blog post kind of came together to tell your story?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even look back at the blog post when I made it. I pretty much just did it from memory. Uh, but I mean, yeah, it was the blog post was just the start. Like, it was happening around the same time. And now that you mention it, I wouldn't be surprised if subconsciously, I wrote the article, and that was already on my mind because I was
Yeah.
thinking about it, and I put a lot of passion into it. And then that just translated into me thinking like, hey, why not just do the same thing in presentation format?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And for those that haven't had a chance to see the blog post, can you just kind of summarize it real quick?
Yeah, so the blog post is on my LinkedIn for all the people who love LinkedIn. It's called "My Journey into Esports," and it pretty much just summarizes, well, my journey into esports.
Yeah.
How I went through high school, discovered what esports is, how I went through college, and how those experiences helped benefit me, and how it eventually led me to where I am today.
Yeah. I love that, and I think you kind of see that full circle, aspect of it, right? Like you just really kind of this new thing sparked in front of you, and you were trying to capture that magic, and you just followed that down a path which you didn't know existed before. You know what I mean? Like, and that's such
Yeah.
a huge opportunity. We see that every day, in the world of collegiate esports, where people are just finding out about something like this, and it's just like, wait, what? Like, hold on, I can do this. Like, this is awesome. Like, and so I think that's a huge opportunity. So thank you for writing that. I think it's, it puts you in a little bit of a vulnerable spot, but like, telling your story has been really cool. You also recently got nominated for the Rising Star Award for Esports U Collegiate Awards.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, that was crazy. I definitely didn't expect anyone to, I never do what I do for acknowledgement or nominations. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it is nice to
Yeah.
be acknowledged, but ultimately my goal is to do what I do, and I don't really need anything in return. Like, if no
Right.
one noticed what I did, but what I did had an effect, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
So, but it was crazy. I literally didn't even find out by myself. I was just, at work, and my friend had messaged me. He was like, "Hey, Mykiah, I voted for you." And I was like, "For what?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "For the Rising Star Award. You didn't know that you're nominated?" And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so they sent me the link, and I saw that the I think it's what, the CECC, yeah,
Hmm.
a lot of acronyms in
There's
esports.
so much, so many.
So yeah, CECC, they had nominated me for for the Rising Star Award, and I was up there with like Tiny Shiny,
Yeah.
and like wish the guy who won the award. I'm sorry that I don't know his name. I'm not biased towards Tiny Shiny. She just
Tiny.
goes to the same school I did.
Hey,
I do love Tiny Shiny
we
though,
like the Tiny
but
Shiny. She's been a guest on the show before.
but
We're big fans.
yeah, yeah, like I'm up there with people who, in my eyes, are doing even greater things than I am, and they're
Yeah.
younger than me. So, it's just like seeing that, being up there with those people, it just, I felt honored to even be up there with them. And, I felt honored to even more see that, esports has a very, very bright future. We
Yeah.
have a lot of people my age who are doing really, really great things in the space, and helps, and it's going to help the space get to a better place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think that, those opportunities to be with your peers and nominated in that is a really cool thing, because it kind of shows you like, hey, I'm doing the right thing. Like I'm gonna keep going at this. Like I'm making a headway here, and that's awesome. So congratulations on the nomination. How do you see like the role of esports, especially focused in education, evolving, and why do you think that this is the next big thing, and why is it essential for the next generation of students?
Well, the reason why I think it is important is because, I'll just go back to what I said earlier of the kids are already playing video games.
Right.
I agree. Even my culture, like not even thinking about Gen Alpha, where they're even more engaged than I am,
Right.
but even my generation of Zoomers, where we grew up using Instagram, TikTok, MySpace, Facebook. Like we grew up
Right.
in this social media world, and specifically people who grew up in video games. Like we've all grown up watching and playing video games on YouTube or Twitch. We've all grown up watching anime. We've all grown up in this environment, but
Yeah.
there hasn't really been an environment where these people can find themselves effectively, especially for people who are under the age of 18. You know, there's like Comic Con and there's like anime cons and stuff like that.
Right.
But one, those things require money and travel, which can be hard. But two, like not everyone is willing to go out there and like put themselves in an environment like that. Like this is a world of introverts. Let's
Yeah.
be honest. This is a world of people who are quieter, more reserved, and more to themselves. And to me, I've always seen it as having esports and education is a very, very easy way to bring those people together to be able to find friends. Because education is not going anywhere.
Right.
At least I hope not.
Yeah.
Education is going to be around for as long as society exists. And to me, esports is just the next evolution of that. Like to me, it's the same thing as traditional sports where you have like a football team or things like that. Most of my friends from high school were on the football team. Like I
Right.
didn't really talk to people outside of that. Like the guys on the football team are mostly people I talk to. I see the same thing with esports, where the same guys you're competing with on Rocket League or Valorant, like those are the same people that you're making friends with. Those are
Yeah.
the same people because you're just around them, and just from the opportunity of being in proximity of each other, you're more likely to make friends with them. And so again, I just bring it back to, would you rather a student be at home by themselves playing video games and possibly saying things that probably are not good for society, or would you rather them be in an environment where they're around other people, they can actually talk to other people who look different than them, act different than them, and learn from them and understand like, hey, these are people too. I just see it as that next evolution of bringing students together to learn things. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's really what education should be at the end of the day, bringing people together to learn something new.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got obviously a lot of students that watch the show, and whether that's here live on Twitch or on YouTube. But what sort of advice do you have for aspiring esports professionals who may not want to follow that traditional path into the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I the best piece of advice I can give is to one, as much as unless you want to do like some back end stuff like
Hmm.
broadcast production thing, but even then, I always say you got to network in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or form. You have to network and you have to get people to know where you are. Esports will get there, but I see for the near future that esports will you getting into the industry and getting a reliable job will more than likely rely on not only just who you know and if someone can refer you, but also just people knowing you in general.
Right.
Like I'll go back to my job at Unicorn, where I had gone and I had networked with a guy, Nathan Lindbergh, where he was with Epic Games at the time, and I'd met him at the esports awards. He had connected me with the marketing guy at Unicorn, and that's how I ended up getting the job. The CEO of Unicorn, Justin Delario, I had already known him,
Yeah.
but we didn't even know. But he had come to me and he was like, Mykiah, like our guy Brian, like he's recruiting you and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, Justin. And that's just how it all comes full circle.
Yeah.
It all comes full circle. And so you always want to leave that good impression on people, because you never know. You never know where the esports industry is going to take you. And you never want to leave a bad impression or a bad taste in people's mouths, because unfortunately, I mean, I feel like no matter what industry you're in, that's going to matter. You know, you don't want to lose your dream job because someone was like, well, you know, I didn't really like Mykiah. Like he never really showed up. He was lazy. He, you know, he never really like, you never want to have that happen to you.
Not at all.
Always want to try to put your best foot forward. So I would say that is definitely the number one piece, but also not giving that generic advice. I'll give another generic piece of advice. Is just to know that you don't have to know everything.
Yeah.
I know that esports can be very challenging, and you're working in an industry with some people who have come over from traditional sports or come over from traditional business, and they say a lot of big words that you have no idea what they're talking about. But ultimately, understand that you don't have to learn. You don't have to know everything.
Yeah.
You should be a sponge. You should go and talk to people and have those conversations and always ask questions. You know, asking questions is something that really, really sets you apart. One, because you're gaining knowledge, but two, it shows curiosity. That's what people want to see. It shows curiosity because it shows the curiosity that you're willing to find out what those problems are and try to develop solutions for them. So, you know, I'll never be afraid to ask questions and just understand that, you know, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to be a 35-year marketing expert or anything like that. You know, you're getting an internship or you're getting an entry level position. Just go, show up for work, do what you have to do, ask questions, and it will take you very, very far.
Absolutely. I love that idea of be curious, you know, like ask those questions. And the funny part too, most of the time, especially if they're people coming in from the business world, they don't know the ins and outs of the games and all of the things that most likely you are super passionate about, right? Like you already have all of the ins and outs of like what this scenario in this game means. That's just as valuable as maybe some of the business or marketing things that are going on over here. So you come to the table with something, I think, and that's really important to keep in mind, because you don't want to forget and feel like, oh, I don't know I shouldn't be in this room because I don't know what's going on, right? Like learning, asking questions, being curious, always great things. But you also bring a lot to the table because they may have no clue about anything about League of Legends, and you may be the absolute, treasure trove of information for them on that. So like you're bringing something to this table. And then if you can learn those other things, man, you're going to be unstoppable. So that's going to be really cool. Great advice. Great advice. As far as like the industry itself, we both know that like things can change overnight, obviously in this industry. What is for you in your current role? Like how do you kind of keep track of like what's going on and what the latest trends and developments are, and how to position that for your company?
Well, how I always do my research is do it with a grain of salt, but Twitter is, I would say, a good access to know what is happening in the industry.
Yeah.
Now, since Elon has bought Twitter, it has not been good.
It's
So I will say that
it's been a little bit of a
it's
dumpster
not
fire.
been good. But I will also say, you know, I'm always a fan of, even if you don't like something or even if you're not the biggest fan of it, you know, try to do what you can and try to take bits and pieces of it. So, you know, I don't really engage in like any Twitter drama, or I
Right.
don't really engage in like all the Twitter whatever is going on, but I do use Twitter to understand like, you know, who just got hired at what
Yeah.
college.
Yeah.
What is NASEF doing? Like I always try to keep myself informed about what is going on. So that would probably, I would say, be my number one source. My second source would definitely be newsletters. Subscribing to different newsletters, it can be very, very easy to just have that come to your email.
Yeah.
And I look at my email literally all day, every day.
Right.
So, so it's very nice to be able to look at those and just have that easy access information.
Yeah.
So that would definitely be my second one. And then my third one would, I mean, as weird as this sounds, like it'd probably be just my connections,
Yeah.
always having conversations with people, talking about what they're doing at their university, what they're doing or what they're doing at their school. What are some of the different trends and things they're seeing, just having those conversations centered around esports to help understand what is going on in the industry and, what's next.
Yeah. How do you think, obviously a desk is a desk, right? Like in broad terms, how do you see the future of like esports furniture and like the esports spaces and how they're designed? How is that evolving and how do you plan to hopefully meet those needs?
See, that's a very, very great question that I was not expecting. But so how I see a lot of esports spaces now, I'm thinking specifically from the educational side.
Right.
I see a lot of esports spaces being, for the near future, being hybrid spaces,
Okay.
being spaces where esports is a part of it, and but it can also be transformed into something else, or
Right.
it could be used for many, many different aspects.
Multi-purpose,
So a
right?
big, yeah, multi-purpose. So I would always say that, like, I go back to Shenandoah, where there was a time where we hosted a Call of Duty tournament and we had like over 100 attendees in the arena at one time, and we had like over. I mean, I don't know the exact number, but like
Right.
over 15 teams competing. Like we had a bunch of stuff going on.
It was a big
But then we
tournament.
also went in there. Yeah, we also went in there, and we also I wasn't a part of it, but I saw pictures where the students had a rave party where they're
Yeah.
playing like and dance music and things like that. I just see that being a very, very big aspect where you can transform these spaces, which is why, I mean, I'm biased because I work here, but I love our Spectrum Furniture
Yeah.
because we take that into account. We take in the account that a lot of these spaces need to be flipped like very, very fast. Like they can't worry about having to get all the cords out and do stuff like that. Like we just ISTE, we just ran I think it was a 16 person Minecraft build tournament,
Okay.
and we were literally able to take all of the tables, all the stuff off the stage in under like 10 minutes. Like being able to do that, I feel, is going to be so, 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 so important
Yeah.
for a lot of people, specifically in education, because again, like you're going to be transforming these spaces and using them for many, many different purposes. I'm sure you all at Full Sail can absolutely relate to this as
Yeah.
well.
Yep. What about mentorship? I know that you've had a lot of great mentors in your journey, people that have been looking out for you, helped you through your journeys. What sort of role do you think mentorship and guidance play in developing, young esports professionals?
I think it's I think it's really like connecting the dots of students to people in the industry. And that
Hmm.
doesn't have to necessarily be with roles, but you can learn a lot just from having a conversation with someone about what it's like. Like for me, one thing I did in college was, I'm not saying everyone should do this, but I would literally like DM a bunch of people on LinkedIn just being like, "Hey, my name's Mykiah Bonhom. I'm interested in esports. Could I just get like 30, maybe even sometimes 15 minutes of your time just
Yeah.
to ask a couple of questions and learn about what's going on in the industry?" That to me is so important because, to me, being a mentor, it could be it could be so many different avenues. It could be
Yeah.
y'all are meeting every week, but it could be also you gave this one student this great piece of advice that they've held on to for the rest of their lives. And that is something that I feel that I personally wish we would see more of now, because I know that I mean, as a young person, I think that we should be building that next generation and should be
Yeah.
building people to think about what the problems are and things like that. Because, I mean, I'm a little biased here, but like a lot of people that I've worked with who have worked in traditional sports or, traditional media, they think that they can bring the same solutions that they brought to similar problems in those industries over into esports. But you're dealing with a whole different animal. Esports is so, so, so different from what is going on in film or media or
Right.
anything like that. Like it is so, so, so different, and it engages with a completely different demographic. So as far as mentorship and things like that, I always say, if you can, like, just spare the time. I think that it is on the student unless there's like a specific program setting up. I think that it is on the student to go and be curious, but meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
Meet them where they're at. Meet them, answer the questions as best as you can, and always try to give those students the time. Because I know how beneficial it was for me from the internships and things I have. Having those conversations benefited me a lot as well.
Absolutely. And honestly, that's how we met. That was the first conversation I ever had with you. You reached out to me on
Yeah.
LinkedIn and said, "Hey, can I get like 15 minutes?" I was like, "Of course, sure." But I think that's such a good idea because for me, that like I didn't know who you were, and then I did, right? Like, and you were on my radar now, and then I started seeing you everywhere and would have further conversations with you, and then knew and was talking to the people at Shenandoah about you, like, oh my gosh, the guy's awesome. Like, we had a great conversation the other day, like, and that is a really big deal. Obviously, you want to lead with your best foot forward. It's very important that first impressions are important, so you want to make sure that you're doing it and going about it in the right way. But I think that's such a powerful thing, is just going out and building those relationships. And, again, I think a lot of the conversation that we've had today has been talking about like being vulnerable and putting yourself in those situations where, hey, I'm going to go out and it's going to be awkward. But I want to soak up this knowledge. I want to get more understanding of what these people are doing in this industry. And that's a very powerful tool. And I think you wielded it really well. And, obviously it shows that, where you are now because of that. But, it's really cool to see that really worked out. So congrats on that. Obviously, we have a couple more minutes here left of the show, so I do want to give you some time to shout out where you are, promote anything that you want to. But what sort of like long-term goals do you have in the esports industry, and how do you plan to achieve them?
Oh my goodness. I hate this question so much.
Sorry.
Because, like, it's not, you don't have to feel bad. It's just like, the reason why I hate this question is because I did not expect myself to be where I'm at a year ago.
Yeah.
And a year ago a year ago in August, I was working at a completely different job.
Yep.
So like I just didn't life throws you a lot of curveballs. But to answer it, for me at least, I think the long-term goal is one, I really do eventually want to start a nonprofit of some sort.
Okay.
I want to start a nonprofit that pretty much helps students in my position, where the biggest barrier that I saw from college students was that a lot of students, they can do all the things I said. They can network,
Right.
they can go and do these things. But a lot of times, like, a big problem is either them being able to find those opportunities or cost,
Yep.
being able to help students with travel and things like that. So that I would love to start a nonprofit that helps bring students to different opportunities, whether it's internships or experiential learning
Yeah.
opportunities,
I like that.
bringing that together, and then also helping cover those costs for those students like myself who, had to do a lot of a lot of things that were definitely very hard on a college student to be able to
Yeah.
afford to go to those and do those different opportunities. And I'm a big fan of, students shouldn't have to worry about costs and things like that. They should just enjoy college and enjoy being, not like a kid, but like enjoy the freedom that they have, because the freedom that they have in college, you're never going to have anything like that again in
Yeah.
life. And so helping make that process easier is something that I'm very passionate about as well. But as far as, I think you also asked, like, what did you ask the second part? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There
No.
was like, it was like yeah.
Just more or less of like how do you plan to achieve those types of things, which is a very hard
Oh,
answer, or a very hard
yeah.
question.
How do I plan to achieve those things? I think, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
but
keep going, that's it, right?
I mean, like, I think it's just, continuing to building myself into a position where I have different connections and things like that. And when the time is right, having those conversations of like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I really want to start bringing esports students opportunities. How can we make this happen? Where, like, for example, Blast, like,
Right.
if I knew someone at Blast, like if I knew the competition coordinator at Blast, I'd be like, hey, I have students from Shenandoah who are really, really excited and want to go to one of your events. could you guys give them something to do, like ticketing,
Right.
wayfinding, give them something to do, give them passes for the event and things like that. We can cover the costs and stuff to get them out there. That is something that I want to
Yeah.
do. So that is how I plan to help build myself into that.
I love
Obviously,
that.
you know, I'm sure that it's a lot more complex than that. I'm making it very, very simplified, but I'm
I
23.
understand.
What do you want from me?
Yeah. I love that though. You know, I do think that's such a needed aspect though. I mean, the idea of the nonprofit, where the, you know, students could potentially like submit for a grant of some sort of like getting the opportunity to get that cost covered so they could go work these events and get that experience. I mean, that's a life-changing thing. So I hope that you are successful in that and that you're able to start to build that out, because that would be a huge opportunity for you know, the next generation of esports professionals, for sure. Absolutely. I love that idea, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome. So tell everybody where they can find you, how to get in contact with you, and any exciting thing that you want to promote.
I am trying to be less chronically online, but you could go on my Twitter. My Twitter is literally just my name,
Yep.
Mykiah Bonhom. I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn, also just my name. If you want to go on my Instagram, sure. My Instagram is the one, I think the one thing I use my gamer tag for, like Mike, LYKMYK. So you could go on there and look at posts from me from high school. But yeah, other than that, I mean, yeah, I'm mostly on LinkedIn and Twitter. Those are the two platforms I use the most.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us for another Have Game Will Travel. We will see you in another couple weeks, but thanks for watching, and we will see you all later. Have a great night.